Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Let's see. How is this new angle? We're at a new angle because I don't think my sister's here yet. She will be here later for sure. But my sister said that I should try to decorate the background. And basically, I said no. I said that I don't want to put anything on the walls. And then I said, why don't I just move where my table is? Because I do have a lot of decorations, but it's on the wall that you guys couldn't see. So here we are. The only thing is that, see, I'm going to keep moving around until I find the best spot. We have to make sure that the natural lighting is still good at this angle. Right now it's good because we have the morning light, but it might be a little weird later, but you know what? We'll just see how it goes. So I hope you like to look at my bookshelf with all the mangoes. So now you can see how many mangoes we eat. Mostly my husband, honestly. I like mangoes too, but definitely my husband's eating most of that. So yeah, and you can also see I moved fig so you could see it too. So this is fig, it's a fig tree. I keep talking about it, so now you guys can actually see it. You can tell that it lost some of its leaves over here because it had a fungus. I don't want to touch it because I'm going to touch the bread in 2 seconds, but I just washed my hands because I don't want to touch the fig tree. But it lost some of its leaves because it had a fungus that it got from my mint plant that is deceased now, unfortunately, because it had a fungus, and I called it quits on the mint plant because it was getting my other plants sick. But I was a little worried about it, but ever since maybe a month or so ago, ever since it started to get lighter out longer, it's been getting a lot of new, a lot of new fresh leaves. So that's good. So now you can keep track of Fig, see how he's going. But yeah, so let's talk about what we're doing today. So today we're going to make ciabatta. There's going to be 2 parts to the stream. Like I sometimes do that, right? With 2 parts to the stream on the same day. The difference is I want to finish the ciabatta today. So I'm going to not just show you how to shape it, but we're going to bake it today. And in order to do that, I have upped the inoculation. I talk about this sometimes, the inoculation, but some of you probably aren't here for that all the time, especially because it's in the beginning of the stream. Usually I talk about it. So let's talk about it briefly before we get started. So right now I have 250 grams of sourdough starter in here. It is nice and bubbly. Maybe this angle is better. I think you can see the bubbles a little bit better. It is nice and bubbly, so it's active. 250 grams of starter is a lot for the size loaf that we're making. And that's the inoculation. That's a high inoculation. It's like over 50% inoculation. Okay, it's over 50% inoculation. I didn't calculate it, but it is high. Most people start with 20% inoculation to 30% inoculation, not 50%. But the reason I'm doing this is because the more sourdough starter you add, the faster it will ferment. Now, that's not always good if you want a really sour taste. If you want a really sour taste, I would lower the inoculation and just wait longer. But today, I'm just going to show you how to do it all in one day. It's okay if it's not super sour for me. I made this already a few days ago and it tastes great and it worked out perfectly. So that's what we're going to do. So now another thing about ciabatta is it is a high hydrated loaf. It is a sticky dough. That's why I wrote, let's get our hands sticky. So we are going to make it 80% hydration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 320 grams of water to 400 grams of flour, and that's 80% hydration. So let's get started. So let's add the water. So it's 320 grams. Okay, 320. And then don't forget your salt. 7 grams of salt. And now I'm going to mix it. Now I'm going to add the dry ingredients. So I'm going to add a little bit of whole wheat just because I add whole wheat to everything. You don't have to. You can make it all with bread flour. But I just like to add a little extra nutrition to most things. Yeah, this is the white whole wheat. So I use white whole wheat a lot, you'll notice. And that's because it's a whole wheat flour, but it's just lighter in color and a little bit lighter in taste. So I add it to things that I don't necessarily want to taste like whole wheat, but I still want to add a little bit more nutrition to. You can use regular whole wheat or another flour. Could potentially work, right? But this is what I use. So I'm going to add 100 grams of this white whole wheat. Okay, that's good. And then I'm going to add 300 grams of this bread flour. So that's 400 grams in total. Okay, that's good. So now we're just going to mix it as well as we can. Sorry, I'm getting the angle right. Eventually I have it correct. So this dough, like I said before, is going to be really wet. So because it's going to be really wet, we don't want to touch it too much. It's going to get stuck to our hands. So I'm just going to try to mix it as best as I can with the fork. So I usually say no to high hydration. It's one of my favorite sayings when it comes to bread. Say no to high hydration. The reason I say that is because high hydration dough is sometimes a flex in the sourdough baking community. If any of you have watched sourdough baking videos, you might have seen the breads that have the big airy holes in them. That's achieved through high hydration and careful handling of the dough too, but mostly high hydration. Now, they do look really pretty, to be fair, but it's a little impractical, in my opinion, to use that bread. Like if you make a sandwich with it, all the filling will just fall out because that's how big the holes are sometimes. So I say no to high hydration because it's high hydration dough is harder to work with, especially if you're a beginner, and it doesn't hold its shape as well, so you don't get as big of an oven spring. Oven spring is just when the dough rises. If dough rises a lot, you get a good oven spring. But usually with high hydration dough, you're not going to get as good of an oven spring. And I think it's impractical. Hold on 1 second, sorry. Okay. I think it's impractical. So I would suggest starting with 70% hydration, which is what we usually do on this channel. We usually do 70% hydration. And that's what my sourdough country loaf on my blog is. It's 70% hydration. By the way, my blog is jerseygirlbreadshop.com. And actually, I have the Nightbot now. Let me try it. Okay, so that is my website, jerseygirlbreadshop.com. And if any of you are interested, I do have instructions on there under the recipes tab on how to start a sourdough starter and some recipes for using it. So yeah, going back to the high hydration, I usually don't go much higher than 70%, except if for a specific reason. And I'd say this is a specific reason. Ciabatta, you do want those big holes in it. That's like one of the quintessential, I guess factors or I can't think of the word. It's quintessential. You need it in ciabatta. So you want ciabatta to be airy. So that's why we're going high hydration, even though I usually wouldn't. And another thing about ciabatta is it's okay if you don't get a big oven spring on ciabatta. They're usually flatter, the breads, right? They're supposed to be flat, like maybe this thick, right? They're not going to get like this. They're not going to puff up like you would usually get if you made a loaf. So it's okay. It's okay in this case. I'm not going to touch it yet. It looks like this now. So it is a ball. It's a rough ball, you could say. So I'm going to put the cap back on and let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes. I would usually let it sit for a full half hour, but it does have a high inoculation, as we discussed earlier, which means it will ferment fast. It's going to ferment pretty quickly, and I want to start the stretch and folds before it ferments too much. So I'm going to come back to it, let's say 8:40. We'll come back, and do the stretch and folds. And then we'll keep doing it until we have 4 stretch and folds. So we'll start 8:40, 9, 9:20, 9:40, and that's perfect. That'll be perfect for us to take our break. So essentially, I know I've talked about this before, but we'll talk about it every single time until everyone here is an expert. But essentially, what we're doing here when we're waiting is the gluten will form by itself. It's magic, right? It's magic. I don't need to knead the dough. I'm going to perform stretch and folds to help the gluten build, to help the gluten strands connect, but I don't need to perform or knead the dough, which would be really messy with this dough, so that's good. With this dough, kneading would be a pain in the butt, essentially. Bless you, Munchkin. I was going to move Munchkin's bed over here, but he's sleeping, so I don't want to disturb him. So maybe later I'll move Munchkin's bed over here, but if he allows me, just so you can see him. But he's here still. He's sitting with me. But yes, we don't need to knead the dough, and that's good. So as it's resting, it's actually the gluten strands are connecting. And then when I do the stretch and folds, I'll further help them connect. And you'll see every time we come back to do stretch and folds, the gluten will become more connected. So it's magic. And then by the time we're on the 4th stretch and fold, the gluten should be pretty strong. We'll test it with a window pane test. And then we can let it rise, do its what we call bulk fermentation, but you can think of it as its first rise, right? And since it is, like I said, very high inoculation, it has a lot of sourdough starter, it should rise pretty quickly, and that's why I'm going to come back at noon. And we're just going to finish it. We're going to shape it, and we're going to let it do its final rise, its final proofing stage, and then we're going to bake it. So that is what we're going to do today. How was everyone's weekend? My weekend so far was good. Yesterday, I didn't stream yesterday because it was my uncle's birthday. So we were at my cousin's house celebrating. So that was nice. It was nice to see some family and things like that. But I decided not to stream, even though I guess I could have in the morning. But I decided instead just to do it all in one day because I think that would be better for you. And for me, so I'm not rushing. Okay, Munchkin is making an appearance now. There he is. There he is, the man of the hour. The man of the hour. So yeah, I decided to do it all today, so that way we're not rushing. And I also wanted to do something with my sister, so I thought it just would be easier to do it like this instead of do a smaller stream Saturday, yesterday, and then do another one today. So this is good. And I also wanted to show you, because I don't usually do the baking stage with you. Mostly because I usually do it in the morning. It's not much for you to see, honestly. You're not seeing much when I do the baking stage. But I still want to do the whole thing with you to show you the final results. And because that's exciting, right? For you guys to see the final results. And to show you that it could be done in one day. A lot of sourdough recipes call for the overnight proof, which I actually prefer because it gives me more free time. Like, it's proofing while I'm sleeping. So, that's easy. And then in the morning I just bake. And that way I have fresh bread in the morning, which I always like too. But today we are going to do it all because it's possible. It is possible. Munchkin's eating breakfast. So thanks, Munchkin, for eating breakfast with us. So yeah, talking more about ciabatta, something I didn't mention before is ciabatta is of course an Italian bread. It gets its name because ciabatta means slipper in Italian, and it's how a slipper is shaped like that. Of course, you have slippers, so or you've seen them before. So ciabatta is named like that because it's flat like a slipper. So that's where it got its name from. But what's interesting about, I guess, a lot of our modern food, and this is a very interesting conversation, in my humble opinion, a lot of modern food is modern, meaning that you might think ciabatta is just an old world bread. That's what it feels like, right? That's what it looks like too. It gives you that feeling that it's like, oh, this is like an old world Italian bread. They've been eating this for centuries. I don't know the exact date that ciabatta was invented. I wish I looked it up beforehand, but I didn't think of this until just now. But it's actually fairly recent. It's not hundreds of years old for sure. And from my understanding, from my recollection, it was actually invented in a backlash against French bread. And here's what I mean. Baguettes were becoming very popular in Italy. So they wanted to create a bread that was Italian because baguettes were French. So they wanted to create a bread that was Italian that would rival the baguette. So ciabatta was the end result. And ciabatta is similar to a baguette in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, it's different, but it is. Baguettes aren't quite as high hydration as ciabatta, so there's that. Baguettes have a better shape, right? They're more round, shaped nicely, whereas ciabatta is not really shaped at all. But in some ways, they can be used in very similar fashion, right? As a baguette, ciabatta can be used similarly. I guess you can make a sandwich with it. They're both crusty breads. They're both very crusty and crunchy. They both usually have pretty big air pockets. Oh, Grandpa Blues. Good morning. Welcome to our stream. How are you doing, Grandpa Blues? How's your morning so far? I'm assuming it might not be morning for you, wherever you are. But if it is your morning, how is your morning so far? We just got started. Right now we're making ciabatta. We made the dough already. So for those of you who just came in, here's what the dough looks like. I was just talking about. Oh, Grandpa Blues, you're in Montana. You're in Montana. That means that it's even earlier where you are. So thank you for joining us very early. Yeah, I'm doing really well. Yeah, I'm happy to be here baking ciabatta. My fig tree's doing well too. I was just telling everyone that I changed my. It's 6:30 where you are. Yes, it's 8:30 here. So, thank you for coming this early. Good, glad to hear it. I was telling everyone you weren't here last week, but I changed my rotation, my orientation here, my angle, because my sister suggested that I should have more stuff in the background. Grandpa Blues, I was in a crafting stream. I was there because my friend rated her. It was Queen something. It's a very nice lady who was diamond painting. And then we rated another Queen chick. Yes, it was her, Queen chick. And then we rated another, the wife of King Nice. See, I don't know all this, but maybe I'll learn soon if I followed her, so I could always watch again. And then we rated another channel. I don't know if you were in that one where there is this Cheese Pops or something was playing Mario, something like that. I don't know. I was not sure what was going on, but it was entertaining. King Kia. Yeah, Kinkia. Okay. I'm assuming you're correct because I'm new here. Hi, I'm new here. But yeah, good to see you, Grandpa Blues. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Grandpa Blue says, yes, Mr. No Good Streamer Cheese Pops. I had fun, so I thought it was a great stream. And I thought we did great. I thought it was a great game. Pats on the back. We all deserve participation trophies for that one. Yeah, yeah, it was nice. That was nice. That was interesting. I was there totally by happenstance. Um, I just followed the party. I was actually, um, my brain's not working today. I was editing. I was editing videos, is what I was doing during that time. And so I had my phone on and it was on Twitch. So whatever happened, I was like, all right, what, I don't know, whatever. So I was doing that while I was editing videos and just once in a while I would send a chat in. But yeah, that was fun. I didn't stay. I left after the Cheese Pops one though, because after that it was too much Twitch for me. Even though it was just I wasn't looking at my phone constantly. It was just on. It was like that's enough. That's enough Twitch for me. It's a kind of a loud. Not all streamers are loud. I don't think I'm that loud, but I feel like it's a loud interface. There's a lot going on Twitch. And Grandpa Blues wrote, but you were very interactive, and I like that. For the most part, raiders don't stay, but you did, and that made an impression. Oh, thank you, Grandpa Blues. Yeah, I wanted to help out. And like I said, I was, chatting up, but I was also editing videos at the same time, so I was going back and forth. And also, it was a shame that Paper Paws and Whiskers, which I don't think she's here, but I think I can still shout her out. Shout out Paper Paws and Whiskers. I think it worked. Oh yeah, it worked. So she's the one who raided. I was just with her when she was diamond painting too. And I was with her when she was diamond painting, and then she raided, and then she had trouble chatting because she didn't have her phone number verified. She's also a new streamer. She does her diamond painting, and she also does some stationery work for her business. And so I was with her in her chat. I'm friends with her IRL, as they say. In real life, I've actually known her since high school. And so when she raided someone, I helped her. I picked out someone for her to raid. She raided the queen, the queen, and then she had trouble chatting. So then I was trying to chat with you guys to tell everyone what was going on. Grandpa Blue says, I don't typically watch crafting streams as I am not a crafter at all, but anyone who helps support my friends gets my support. That's sweet, Grandpa Blues. I'm glad you're here. It's kind of right now it's kind of a slow morning. More people will probably join later in the second half of the stream. If you're around later, you can stay too and chat with everyone else. But yes, I don't watch crafting streams either. I'm not I usually don't watch diamond painters. I actually didn't really know what diamond painting was until relatively recently when Alex showed me what it was. But I'm not opposed to it at the same time. I'm not opposed to it, but it's not something I would gravitate towards. I do like to watch people bake and cook, which is what I like to do. So, to each their own. I also don't usually watch people play video games. I'm not a gamer. Believe it or not, I know I'm on a weird platform. And Grandpa Blue says, I don't know that I will be. I certainly wanted to say hi. Okay, thank you for coming. That's okay. You don't have to. Of course, you're welcome, but I know people are busy. That's the thing with this. I know people are busy. I was actually working on trying to get my 5th monitor working and seeing you were on. Okay, thank you for stopping by to say hi. But yeah, I was saying I'm not really a gamer. I know Grandpa Blues. I think you're a gamer. I think I saw that you streamed games. I think you said you did. Not only did I see it, I think you said you did. But the reason why I'm here on Twitch, and I'll keep saying it, I'll say it again and again, is because of my sister, my great sister, who has helped me thus far figure out all of this because I'm not tech savvy. And she's actually going to be streaming with me later. She's going to be playing Palia and I think some other games too. She's going to be cooking on those games. So we're going to do a stream together, which again, I think this is the first time for both of us to do a joint stream. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully there's no technical hiccups, but yeah, I think that'll be fun. So we're starting that at noon. You might be busy, but if you are around, we are starting that at noon. Okay, I'm going to check up on the dough. So this is what the dough looks like now. And I want to show you a stretch and fold. Grandpa Blue says, not at all. You're welcome on this platform as anyone else. There are many chefs, cooks, and crafters on this platform. Not to mention the less desirable side of Twitch that doesn't include any type of real talent at all. What is that? What is that less desirable side of Twitch? Chatters? Oh, never mind. You mean like the SCX work? I'm assuming. I'm so naive. I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to do a stretch and fold. So I'm going to take Grandpa Blues, there are channels that prey on, yes, that's it exactly. Yeah. So I wet my hands because I usually wet my hands, but for this it's very important because the dough is very wet. And I'm going to stretch out the dough and pull it back. Just like we usually do with the stretch and folds, but this time it's even more wet. I just felt a lump, so I just broke it up. You can tell that the gluten is not developed all the way yet. Yes. So this is a good question. Grandpa Blue says, do you use wet hands instead of a flour covered hand? Yeah, so there's some dough sticking to my hands a little bit, but I almost want to touch it with my flour covered hands to show you. But I don't want to put extra flour in the dough. Basically, the wet hands are going to work better for wet dough. If you have a drier dough, like bagels, which is a lower hydration, you might use flour. I usually use flour for that type of dough, but this is 80% hydration. So if I use flour, it just becomes like a sticky mess still. And also it adds dry ingredients to the dough, which we want to avoid because we want this to stay a wet dough to get the big bubbles. So we're just going to wet our hands. Yeah, and the gluten's not all the way formed yet. You can tell. It's still breaking up a little bit, but that's okay because we'll do another stretch and fold in 20 minutes. But basically what we're doing is we pull up the dough, stretch it over. I'm not even kneading it. Kneading this would be a mess. Like if I went in and tried to knead it, it would be so messy. We're not going to do that. So we'll just get it till it's like a ball. It feels a little stronger now, so that's good. Grandpa Blue says, I've only ever made pie crust, and I'm not a cook at all. However, when I did, I used flour-covered hands, hence why I asked. Pie crust is different though. I don't know about pie crust. I think you would use flour-covered hands for pie crust. I feel like that makes sense. I'm not really a pie baker. I have someone else who sometimes comes into the chat who bakes pies, so we can ask her if she's here today. But here's what it looks like now. Oop, don't want it to fall out, but that's what it looks like now. Yeah, so with pie crust, I know that it's important to like keep all the ingredients cold, and stuff like that. But I'm not really pie baker. I think every time I've tried to make pie crust, it was okay. Never great. I think there's a method to the madness though with pie crust to get it like bakery style. There's these videos that I've watched before on YouTube. Oh man, I probably have to look it up because I don't think I'm going to remember. I think her name was Erin, Erin. And it was on a bigger network. Like she's not an independent creator. She's signed on to somebody big, right? Like one of those food networks. I can't even remember which one it is. Like Bon Appetit or something. Oh, so you got it right. Grandpa Blue's, you got it right. It came out very flaky and buttery. But I'm going to say she's the pie lady. I think her name is Erin Mick something. She works for Bon Appetit or something like that. And she makes pies on YouTube. And she makes these videos are actually pretty long and they're pretty detailed about how to get the pies correct. Get the pie crust correct, get the filling correct. And they're pretty long. I think her videos are fun to watch. I don't even make pie. And she makes me want to make pie. She makes me want to make pie. She does other videos too, but they're mostly pie videos. And I believe she has a pie cookbook too. So if you're interested, I gave you some information. Maybe you can find her. I think it was Erin Mick something. Hopefully. But Grandpa Blues, you got it right anyway. You got it right the first time. I think I have trouble when it comes to, or I used to anyway. I haven't made pie in a while. When it comes to rolling out the pie crust, I think it always breaks or something like that, or it's just probably something's wrong with the pie crust if it's breaking. I don't know. I messed up. But yeah, now we're gonna wait another like 15 minutes. We'll wait another 15 minutes till it's 9. And we'll do another set of stretch and folds. And we'll do 4 sets of stretch and folds for this. Now, the stretch and folds are helping to build the gluten. And the wait time too helps build the gluten. So like I was saying before, gluten is magic. Builds by itself. So we don't really need to sit there and knead the dough, essentially. Grandpa Blue says, that's a cute story. Anyway, I'm sorry, but I do need to run. I want my baby girl to have her coffee drink when she wakes up. It's been great being here. I will be lurking. Please enjoy your stream. Thank you, Grandpa Blues, for coming and supporting. Always welcome. Always welcome. So, like I was saying before, we're going to wait 15 minutes for about, and then we're going to stretch and fold again. And we'll do that 4 times, and that's going to build up the gluten. I was saying before that gluten is magic. Gluten is magic. It'll build by itself even if you don't need it, especially with wet dough. With wetter doughs, you don't need to knead it. Now, I always mention this, but I can't not mention it when we're talking about gluten. Gluten is really important for the dough. It's really important for the structure of the dough. Okay? Without gluten, you're not going to get those big holes. The dough won't hold its shape. You won't get a good oven spring. All those things rely on gluten being built. So you need to build the gluten. Some people I know can't have gluten, but most people can have gluten. So gluten is not a bad thing. It's actually just the protein in the wheat. And this protein in the wheat isn't just a byproduct of wheat. It's essential to build the bread. So without the gluten, bread wouldn't really exist. That's why making gluten-free bread is kind of hard, right? It's doable, but it's hard because gluten is such an important, I guess, I was going to say ingredient, but it's not an ingredient because you don't add it. It's already in the wheat, but it's such an important component to the dough and to the bread. It's not a byproduct of it. And like I said, it's the protein in the dough, so it's not unhealthy. It's not unhealthy, okay? Unless you have a allergy, some people do, and that's unfortunate. But most people don't. Most people don't, and these gluten-free things are mostly trendy. Although it's good for people with celiac that it was trendy to some extent, because then they had all these gluten-free products at the store that they might have not had otherwise if it wasn't a trend. But otherwise, yeah, it is just a trend. Okay, so most people, I don't know about you specifically, but most people can eat gluten. And I recommend it because it's delicious. Bread is delicious. And gluten-free bread is okay, but it's not as delicious. But speaking of gluten-free bread with sourdough with the yeast is a little trickier. But gluten-free quick breads with baking powder is a lot easier because they don't rely so much on the gluten for structure. They do to some extent, but not as much. There's a lot of other ingredients that are holding the bread together. So a few weeks ago on stream, it might have even been a month ago, it was a while ago, I made banana bread. I made miso banana bread, which is delicious. I had another piece this morning. It's delicious. But since then, I've been testing out the same bread, but gluten-free version. And I have one finally that is really good. And I actually started writing out the recipe for it on my blog. It's not published yet, but it's almost done. So hopefully today or tomorrow it'll be published. Today I might get tired. I might not tired, but yeah, tired. Yeah, my eyes might get tired of the computer. You know, I might not be able to do it tonight, but tomorrow morning I should be able to. Because like I said, it's almost done. It needs another run through. It always needs a few run throughs before I publish it, and there might still be a mistake. So if you find a mistake, let me know on my blog. Let me know. But you know, it always needs a few more run throughs, and then I show my husband and etc. etc. But I digress. I want to tell you how the gluten-free one came out and what we were doing. So first, I tried replacing all the wheat flour with oat flour. And I mean, the taste was good, of course. But the texture was a little off. It was a little like chewy or mushy, almost like oatmeal. So I was like, I don't know about that one. My husband liked it. He was like, no, it's good. And it was good, but I was like, I'm not happy with that one. Then I made another one for my friend who does have a gluten allergy, and I made it with buckwheat. And it was just all buckwheat flour in place of the wheat. And she said it was too dry, which of course is bad for banana bread. Banana bread should not be too dry. That is no bueno. And like, so the my thought was that the oat one was a little wet. It was a little like mushy in the middle and wet. And then the buckwheat one was too dry. I thought, well, why don't we mix them? Because the buckwheat one probably had better structure. Just because buckwheat has a better structure than oat flour in my experience. So I did half and half, and it's perfect. In fact, my husband didn't know it was gluten free. I just gave it to him and asked him what he thought, and he liked it. And I think he was a little confused because he was like, "Oh, I've had this before. Like you've given me this plenty of times." And I said, "But it's the gluten free one." And he's like, "Oh wow! Like I didn't realize this was the gluten free one." So I think that one was a winner. So I'm going to post the recipe for that on my blog, even though I know it's like a month late, but it's better late than never. And yeah, I'm going to post the recipe, and also on the bottom I'll post a variation for the gluten-free one in case you guys want to do the gluten-free one. Both are good. So I actually might make the gluten-free one again just because it was really good. So that's the problem with my gluten-free recipes. I've been struggling to get a gluten-free bread, like actual bread, not banana bread, actual bread with yeast. To me, this might be a controversial take, but banana bread is cake. I think pumpkin bread, banana bread, I think they're all cake. I think we just trick ourselves, call them bread. They're cake, okay? Zucchini bread, also cake. I digress again. But those types of things that are made with baking powder and baking soda, I usually can get a gluten-free version of that I'm really happy with. It might take a few test trials, but I like I said, I was happy with the one with buckwheat and oats. I thought that was delicious. I thought you could hardly tell the difference. The same thing, like I made a gluten-free cornbread, and that one's pretty easy to swap because it's already mostly corn flour, which is gluten-free. So I just had to swap a little bit of the wheat flour, and I used buckwheat instead. I like that one better than the one with wheat. It was great. So usually those I can get like to a point that I'm like happy with it. I'm like, this is great. I wouldn't. I don't want people to eat it and be like, but it's gluten free, right? When I go out and I get like a snack that's gluten free, sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't believe this is gluten free. It's so good. And other times I'm like, what did you put in this? What did you put in this? Sometimes it's a taste problem. Sometimes it's a texture problem. Sometimes there's both. I'll come back to this. I have a story about a really bad taste problem, but it's not exactly about gluten free. So I'll come back to that. But I don't like that. But sometimes I go to and get like a gluten free dessert somewhere just because it looks good, and it is good. And it's like, I wouldn't even know this is gluten free. It's good, and I'm enjoying it. So I want mine to be more like that. But now we have a problem with the gluten-free actual like yeasted bread with the sourdough. I've been having a problem with that because I can't get anything that I think is good. It's like edible, like I can eat it, but it's weird tasting. Sometimes it's weird tasting. It's always weird texture. It's like it just doesn't remind me of bread. Sometimes I'm just like, what is this? But that's because the gluten is just so important for this type of bread. Which is just bread. The other banana bread's cake in my opinion, but it's so important for this. So it can be a struggle sometimes to get the right texture and taste on gluten-free bread. Okay. So I'm struggling with that, but I always like try out a few times. Like I'll try a few recipes and then I'll get kind of disheartened and I'll stop for a while and then I'll come back to it. I have done injera with the gluten-free starter, and it came out very good. I made it a few times. I made it once for my friend who has a gluten allergy, and that one, she gave me the thumbs up on that one, and I also gave it the thumbs up, and my husband gave it the thumbs up. So when we have all those thumbs up, that means it's good. And yeah, I really like that one, and it's it doesn't rely on gluten at all because it's just naturally a gluten-free recipe, which I think is why it works a little easier. It's a flatbread. If you don't know what injera is, it's an Ethiopian flatbread that is traditionally made with a sourdough, but with teff flour, and so it's naturally a gluten-free bread. And it doesn't really need a rise, really, maybe a little bit to make it fluffy, but it doesn't need it doesn't need gluten to hold its structure, essentially. So that worked out pretty well. Okay, speaking of gluten, let's check up on this guy. It's been 20 minutes. Let's check up on this guy. Let's do our stretch and folds. You can tell it's a little stronger. I'm just getting rid of some clumps that I found. But even being said, the clumps, unfortunately, it's stronger. It's ripping a little bit still, though. It's still ripping a little bit. But it's holding its own more than last time. Okay, so you see it's coming together more of a ball. I'll show you in 2 seconds. So every time we do it, it gets more and more of a ball shape, and it's stronger. It's not as likely to break when I stretch it. So we're going to do this 2 more times. It's 9 now, so we'll do it at 9:20 and at 9:40, and that's when we can end. For this first part of the stream is a little short, but we'll end there, and then I'll come back at noon with my sister. Oh. Let me actually be right back, because I have to plug in my computer anyway. I switched the orientation, like I said, so the outlet is in a weird spot. It's still reachable, but I have to go get it. And then I'll wash my hands too, so it'll be a good time to take a little... It'll be less than 5 minutes. It'll be like 1 minute, I'm sure. So let's see. I tried moving my table again a little bit. I think that's better. Yeah, I think that's better. So, welcome back. I know you guys missed me while I was washing my hands. Um, so I was going to say earlier I had a little story. It's not super exciting, and I don't want to put any business on blast, so I'm not going to mention. I don't even think I remember the name of the business anyway, but I'm not going to even mention the town that it was in. Just know it was a business. It was a bakery, and it was one of these healthy type bakeries, which actually I make a lot of treats that are healthier, or I try to make them a little healthier. I use whole wheat, flours, and I might use a little less sugar, and I might use less oil or no oil. I understand this. I understand the inclination. I am, in some regards, I'm there with them. I would like healthier treats too. But this bakery, I believe everything was plant based, which we are also plant based here. Gluten free, which, okay, plant based and gluten free is a challenge, but can be done because I've done it. So everything was plant based, gluten free, but also it was, and here's, I think, the problem, where the problem lies really. It was refined sugar free. Refined sugar free. So that means that I guess they can use things like maple syrup, maybe, and maybe some other sugars that aren't refined, like maybe coconut sugar, which I do use a lot. I use coconut sugar a lot. I don't use maple syrup as much because it is, uh, even though coconut sugar can get expensive, maple syrup is way more expensive. It's so expensive. But I digress again. It was refined sugar free, but I think they were also using stevia and monk fruit. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with stevia and monk fruit. They are natural sweeteners, but they're not sugar. So it's kind of like Sweet and Low if Sweet and Low was from a plant, right? So it's not sugar at all. It's in some ways it's artificial sugar because it's not sugar. It's mimicking sugar, but it's from a plant. So I guess in that way it's natural, if that makes sense. So it's a natural way to have a 0 calorie sweetener. However, um, I do not I do not like 0 calorie sweeteners. I've not had one that I liked anyway. I can taste it. I know I'm not the only one, that there's other people who don't like the taste of 0 calorie sweeteners. I know I don't like the taste of stevia. I think I also don't like monk fruit, although I don't know if I've tasted monk fruit by itself, but definitely I've had stevia, and I don't like it. So anyway, I believe they're using these sweeteners. So they sold us. Well, Gonzalo, my husband, my dear husband, picked it out. I would not pick this out, and I think you might know the reason why I would not have picked this out. He picked out a cinnamon bun. Now, there's a reason I wouldn't have picked it out, and it's not because of the sugar either. It's because cinnamon buns are made with yeast. Traditionally, I don't think this one was made with yeast. I think it was made with baking powder. I think. But usually cinnamon buns require the gluten to be formed pretty well. It's not like a cake. It's a yeasted bun, so it needs gluten to develop, right? So I wouldn't have picked that out in a gluten-free place, but it's okay. I picked out a brownie. The cinnamon bun. I don't like to down talk other bakeries. That's why I'm not mentioning their name, because who knows, maybe they fixed the formula since then. But it was not good. I'll just say that it wasn't good. And I think the texture was off, but I really think the main problem was actually they were using some kind of sweetener. I think it was stevia. I could taste it. It tasted so weird. It was not sweet at all, and it was just, I did not like it. Okay, I did not like it. It was not good. I would not recommend that cinnamon bun, but I'm not telling you from whence it came. If you know, you know, basically. So, and it's not even by me. So if you're trying to find it, one that it was by me, find a bakery by me, it wasn't by me. So all the bakeries by me are great. I don't think there's any health food bakeries by me. So it wasn't one close to me. So you can, it could be anywhere else in the United States. Uh, Anyway, with the brownie though, I say the brownie was actually not bad. I think the chocolate flavor kind of covered up any other artificial sweetener or, you know, 0 calorie natural sweetener flavor there might have been. This chocolate's pretty powerful flavor. And the texture though wasn't really a brownie. It tasted more like one of those health food bars you might get at, the convenience store, like a Cliff Bar or something, but if it was all chocolate, like an all chocolate Cliff Bar. But it was good still. Like it was edible, and I actually quite liked it. It wasn't sweet. It tasted like dark chocolate. If you like dark chocolate, so that one I was like, oh, that's much better than the cinnamon bun. Was just not a good choice, I think. But yes, uh, I wanted to save the story for after we talked about gluten because it's not really about the gluten. Gluten free can be done well, but it's more so about the sweetener problem. I think that was the main problem. I don't use those types of sweeteners when I'm baking, but yeah, I think just regular sugar. Just if you want to lower the amount of sugar, I use coconut sugar a lot, but I also have white sugar. I have white sugar for certain things. It depends on what I'm doing, what the flavor I want to go for. Coconut sugar is a little healthier, but at the end of the day, it's still sugar. So, use with moderation. But I would rather just use it with moderation than use stevia personally. Unless you have, I mean, some people do have problems with sugar and they have to avoid it altogether. I understand that. But if you don't, then I would just use a little bit in moderation. Okay, it's 9:10. Okay, in 10 minutes we'll check on it. Check on the dough for the third time. For the third time. So let's see. Is anyone here? Ciabatta. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys like ciabatta, right? I feel like that's a popular bread. The reason I'm making it today is actually because my sister said that's her favorite bread. And yeah, so we're making it. It's not a bread I like to make too often because, like I said before, it's sticky. And it's honestly, I do like to eat it, but it's not my favorite. But later, we are going to make ciabatta pizzas. They're like French bread pizzas. And I'll show you how to do it. You can do it right in your toaster oven. So that will be fun. That will be fun. We've been making that all week. We actually had pizza this morning for breakfast because we're spoiled. My husband and I are spoiled. I spoil us with all the bread. So we made ciabatta pizzas for breakfast. Something about the ciabatta though, that's why one of the reasons I don't like to make it that often. And this also goes for baguettes. Very similar problem. Because of the amount of crust to, I guess, soft inside ratio, there's a lot of crust essentially. It goes stale faster. Crusty breads tend to go stale faster. And as you know, I bake a lot of bread, so I like the bread to last a long time. So the ciabatta did go stale that's why we finished it this morning, because the last time I made it, when did I make it? Thursday? So I guess it's 3 days. So 3 days, it'll go stale in 3 days. So eat it before then. But yeah, it went stale in 3 days. But my loaves, like you can kind of see my loaves back there. My loaves take much longer to go stale. They'll take like weeks. No, not weeks, sorry. A week to go stale, probably. 5 to 7 days to go stale. So if my ciabatta is going stale in like 2 to 3 days, that's like half the time, essentially. So it's going to go stale twice as fast, you could say. So use it up quickly. Like, I think it's probably the best day it's baked. Or you can freeze it. And this time, I'm going to freeze one of these. Because I'm going to split this into two, this dough. I'm going to split this into two and I'll freeze half. So that's what I would suggest doing if you're not going to eat them the same day. Because it does go stale quicker. Yep. So, yeah, I'm going to break this into two later. You'll see that later when we shape, which we're not really even going to shape. We're just going to break it into two. That's our shaping. And that way we have two smaller ones. And I guess you could make one huge one, but we're not going to do that. And then one of them I'll keep for us to eat today, and then the other one I'll freeze. So that way we can eat it later during the week. Yeah. And if you're curious to see the recipe for this, I will update my blog with it sometime this week. Again, some of you already know this if you're here fairly often. I work. I'm a teacher, so sometimes things get a little hectic during the week, and then I don't update my recipe until later, or add my recipe to the blog until later. But I do always add it within 1 week, or usually 99% of the time I add it within 1 week if the recipe came out good. If it's good, we add it. So I will be adding this if you guys want to try it yourself. And I already uploaded a short video onto YouTube, which let's try Nightbot. Okay, are you ready for Nightbot? My sister just showed me how to do this. Look at that. Nightbot is lurking in the chat, and he or she has just posted. It's a bot, so I think we can call it it, right? It has posted. So that's my website. Oh no, that's my YouTube, sorry. That's my YouTube. And I post all the VODs on there. The VODs will be on Twitch for 2 weeks. And I'll post them on YouTube before they're off Twitch. So usually within a week, I'll post them on YouTube. But I also post shorter videos on there too, so you can watch that. I have a shorter video of the ciabatta already up there. And I also post stuff like that, short videos, like they call them reels on Instagram. But I post stuff like that on Instagram as well. So since we're using Nightbot, let's see. Look at that. Oh, Nightbot's at it again. Lurking in my chat. Sending you guys links. Bless you, Munchkin. We really have to move his... Yeah, I have to move my orientation again. This is just a trial. Because I want to get Munchkin in the shot. So I think I can do that if I move up a little bit and move his bed over here. So yeah, but so far I do like my sister's suggestion. Bless you. He has to go to the vet soon anyway. I keep saying that. But he just for a checkup, and he has hyperthyroidism, which I think is affecting his sinuses, honestly. I think it might be the medication affecting his sinuses. Because he's been like that for a while. So I'll ask the vet. But he has hyperthyroidism, so he always has to get his thyroid checked. And unfortunately for him, it's always going up and down, so they always change his medicine, Now I think he's taking 2 pills a day. But he started off with one pill a day, so it's doubled since he started. And so they're always putting it up and down, and yeah. So yeah, it's a shame, but you know what? It could be worse. So that's why we thank our lucky stars, because he's 15 years old. So he's doing good for 15. He's doing good. But he does get very often. He's always sneezing. Now he's sleeping. He's okay. He's just a sleepy boy. So let's see. Let's do another set of stretch and folds. Almost done. This will be our third set of stretch and folds. So let's see. It should be pretty strong by now. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, it's pretty strong. See, the gluten is magic. A little rip here though. But that's okay. We're going to do another stretch and fold. So. But it is passing the window pane test a little bit. I know it just ripped, but this part didn't rip and I could see through it. So the window pane test, since I'm talking about it, is when you pull part of the dough, you stretch it, and then you get it thin enough that you can see the light on the other side, right? So I'll do this, and I'll pull it, try to get it thin enough. I can see the light on the other side, and it's not ripping. So if you can see the light on the other side and it doesn't rip, it is past the window pane test. Although this piece is ripping right here, so I don't know if it really passes. It kind of passes, but we might have to wait till the next stretch and fold for it to pass. But it is pretty strong. It's already a little inflated too because of the high inoculation, which is why I'm doing the stretch and folds every 20 minutes instead of every 30 minutes. I think that was a good call because it's already inflated. Okay, it's 9:20. We're on time. So I want to do one more stretch and fold. Usually I only do 3, but for this I want to do 4 just to make sure that the gluten is developed enough. And I think that's also a good call because we did see a little ribbage just now. So at 9:40 we'll do one more, and then after that we'll take a little break. We'll come back at noon, so it'll be about 2.5, maybe 2 hours and 15-minute break. We'll come back at noon, and we will shape the dough and do the final proof, and we'll bake the dough. And if we still have time, which I think we will, because I don't think that'll take 4 hours, we will also make a pizza with it. So that'll be fun. Okay, so in 20 more minutes, we'll do one more stretch and fold. So remember I was talking before about, I just think this topic's pretty interesting. So I'll mention it again. I was talking before how a lot of the foods we consider to be, maybe in our heads, we think they're old foods, but they're actually not that old. An example being the ciabatta, which is not an old food. Another example would actually be pad thai. Maybe a lot of people, I don't know, some people might realize it's not that old. But I think a lot of us in our imagination, it's like a traditional Thai dish. It is a Thai dish, but traditional, I'm not sure. because I believe it was invented relatively recently. Again, I don't have the date. I wish it would be a more compelling story if I had the date. I think it was in the last 100 years, though, which is really not that long ago, right? That's within some people's lifetime, right? It might be within your great grandparents' lifetime or something like that. So, less than 100 years ago, let's say, um, Thailand really, really went through this, like, I guess, nationalist type of phase. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that they were nation building, right? And every nation, when it's nation building, participates in some kind of myth building as well. And often this comes with the food too. So before this, again, I'm speaking very generally because I'm not a historian on this, but if anyone in the chat knows more like details, let me know. Or if I'm getting something wrong, please let me know. But I believe, it's, from my understanding, that pad thai, or in general, noodles were considered Chinese. There were a lot of Chinese immigrants in Thailand. There still are. And noodle dishes were very common, but they were considered a Chinese dish, not really a Thai dish. And, pad thai was put together, and literally it's called Thai. It's in the name. So we know just from that, it's like most things aren't called like something like America unless, for example, it's part of myth building. I can't think of American cheese, maybe. But American cheese is also a fairly recent invention. But yeah, my main point is that it's suspicious that Thai is in the name in and of itself. So it was kind of created as a national dish to kind of build, like, I guess, group these disparate groups together, right? There's a lot of different ethnic groups in Thailand, just like a lot of places there are, and they try to make, well, we're all one ethnic group. Most nations do this. It's not just Thailand. But it's kind of similar with the ciabatta, where it was also part of like a cultural identity type thing, right? Like, oh, everyone's using baguettes, but baguettes are French, so this kind of, it almost hurts our cultural identity in some way. So let's invent something that's Italian. So pad thai is something similar. It's a cultural identity type push. And I think there's probably so many examples of foods that are like that. I read this great article, and if I can find it during the second half, I'll look for it now. When we're on break, I'll look for it, and I'll plug it in to the chat because I think it is just so great. And I'm going to read it again, and it'll bring up so many good points of discussion when it comes to this myth building aspects of food. And it was specifically about Italian food, so it'll be more, it probably does talk about ciabatta in there. It'll be more, I guess, related, I guess, to ciabatta rather than pad thai. There's probably a few articles on pad thai I can find too. But this, I think this is just incredible, honestly. I think it's just so fascinating the way we are very, I guess, prone to correlate food with our identity. And I don't think that necessarily has to be the case personally. I think sometimes people get a little too attached to certain foods because of identity purposes. But when you think about it, for example, if people are eating baguettes and baguettes are French, what's the issue? What is the real issue, right? There really isn't one. And especially when you think that ciabatta is not that much different than a baguette, right? And it was invented to kind of clash with the baguette. Don't get me wrong, I like ciabatta, it's good. I'm glad someone invented it, but I do think it is kind of like a silly thing to have happened from an American perspective. I know I'm not Italian. At least nationality-wise, I'm not Italian. But yeah, but it's not just Italy. All around the world, this kind of myth building with food happens. In America, it happens. Like good old American pie. maybe hot dogs and burgers. I'm not sure. There's plenty of things that I think we use as myth building aspects when it comes to American food. There might be some good articles about that as well. But I know I read a really good one about Italian food. It was really, really good. And I think it was about this. I think it was a man who wrote it. And I think he's like a foodie, food critic, maybe a chef, something like that. And I think it was about how he came to unlearn a lot he thought he knew about Italian food, because he always thought all these traditions were very old, like I was saying. And then he discovered that they're actually fairly modern inventions and they're not really traditional, which is not a problem. Like, I don't think he's saying this is a problem. I think he was just analyzing how we, like I was just talking about, how we use food in this way to myth build. So yeah, I'll find that one and I'll read it again. So I'll have some more examples to give you, because I believe he gave a lot of good examples of Italian food that is not really necessarily traditional, but was actually invented in a way to reclaim Italian identity. It's just, to me, that's fascinating. But yeah, I'll find that and I'll put it in the chat when we re-enter. Oh, the Bear Fan, you're here. Welcome, the Bear Fan. How are you doing today? The Bear Fan, we're actually almost done. It's been pretty quiet this morning. It's been pretty quiet, but let me know. Let me know if you like this new angle, because I think you're the first one to come in to know my other angle. My sister suggested that I had more in the background, so I thought to do something like this instead of put more things on my wall. So let me know if you like this new angle, if you like the white wall better with my wine rack in the back. But this one, you can see Fig, you can see my books, you can see my mangoes, so that's pretty cool. We eat a lot of mangoes, as you can see, mostly my husband. Love it. It's a Bear Fantasy, loves it. Good. I'm glad. So we'll stick to this. Munchkin is here, my cat, but he's sleeping. If he wakes up, I can move his bed over here, but I don't want to bother him, so I'll let him sleep over there. But maybe I'll move his bed over here so he can hang out with us. We can see him, because it's important for him to be visible for you guys, you know? I'm thinking of you. I'm always thinking of you. But yeah, I was saying we're almost done. But the Bear Fan, if you're around, please return later at noon. I'm going to come back on with my sister. So basically right now, and anyone else who's in the chat who's lurking, lurk away. Thank you for being here. But I will be back at noon. So let me show you what we have so far. We're making ciabatta, as it should say in the title. So I have the dough already done, and we've been doing our stretch and folds. We have one more stretch and fold to do. I'll do it in about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to let it bulk ferment. I'm not going to sit here while it's bulk fermenting, because it's just going to sit here for like 2 hours. Maybe another day we'll just hang out for hours while it's bulk fermenting, but not today. So I'm not going to sit here while it's bulk fermenting. I'll let you take a break. I'll take a break. And then when it's done bulk fermenting, I'll come back. And when I come back, we're going to shape it, which ciabatta doesn't need much shaping, but we'll shape the dough. Oh, you've been listening, so you might already know. So we're going to shape the dough, and then we're going to bake it. And then if we have time, which I think we will, I'm going to show you how to make a ciabatta pizza. So that should be fun. This is a high inoculation, so that means that there's a lot of sourdough starter in here, so it's going to ferment quicker. I did that on purpose, obviously, because I want this to be done today. So I want to bake it today with you guys and, be able to show you the final results. So that was my plan. So it's also a good way to bring up inoculation again, because I get asked about it a lot. You can do a higher inoculation sourdough. It will be less sour, but it will ferment faster, which is what we're doing here. We're fermenting it faster. So the Bear fan says, I'm only on my first sip of coffee. Good morning. Yes, it's very early where you are, the Bear fan, but been listening. Can't wait for your read when you find it. Yes, I'm going to find it during the break. I'm fairly certain I'll be able to find it. Because I remember when I remember when I found it and had to read it to my husband because I thought it was so interesting. But yeah, so we will be discussing that later. So sometimes, I usually write down some talking points that I can say to you guys, but sometimes I just talk to myself for a few hours and I come up with these interesting things to say. So, stream of consciousness, and you come up with interesting ideas. If I had thought of it earlier before the stream, I would have looked up the article before, but I didn't think of it until now. But yeah, we still have time to discuss. But the Bear fan, since you're here, for the last few minutes, we can deliberate on the question of the day, and then we can talk about it more when we come back. You're going to just rack your brains about this for the next 2 hours if you come back later. Let's see. Oh, by the way, the Bear fan, I have Nightbot now, so let's see. Let's see if this works. So Nightbot is in their chat now. He's sneaking around, and it asks, is a burrito a sandwich? The Bear fan, is a burrito a sandwich? What are your thoughts? If you're in the chat still. I know you're just waking up. But I'll let you think about it for a little first, because I don't want to give you my answer yet. Because my answer might change your answer. I don't want that to happen. Meow Jin, welcome to the chat, Meow Jin. Let us know if you feel so inclined to introduce yourself. Do you like to be called Meow Jin? Do you like baking? What do you like to bake, if so? Do you want to learn something about baking? Anything like that. Anything you want us to know about yourself, feel free to introduce yourself. We were also just discussing the question of the day. Is burrito a sandwich? Or is a burrito a sandwich? I'm not giving you my answer yet, okay? I don't want to give you my answer yet. And I was just saying to the other people in the chat who just came in, you came in towards the end, but also towards the middle. So we're having an intermission soon, is what I'm saying, Meow Girl. Sorry, not Meow Girl, Meow Jin. Meow Jin. And so we mixed the dough already, and we did 3 stretch and folds. This is what the dough looks like. And it will be ciabatta. So the dough is a little wet because ciabatta is a high hydration dough. We're going to perform 1 more stretch and fold in a few minutes, actually. Then I'm going to take a break. I'm going to end the stream because it'll be a longer break, like a 2-hour break. But when I come back at 12, it'll be a stream with my sister, who I'm going to shout her out because I know how to do that now. Look at me. I'm learning. Oh, Meow Jin, I've had you on side for a while, enjoying listening. Okay, Meow Jin, so you already heard what we were doing. That's good. Welcome to the chat. So let me shout out my sister. Let's see, shout out. See, I'm doing it right. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me try it again. I think I just misspelled it. Pump. Because it's like pumpkin without the I. There you go. So that's my sister. I shouted her out. She streams video games. She mostly does like Toontown and Animal Crossing. But lately I've noticed she's been doing Baldur's Gate and Final Fantasy, so definitely a variety of different types of games. And she, I think, is going to be playing Palia today, and she's going to be doing a cooking thing in Palia. I don't know. I haven't played that game, but that's what she told me. So we're going to be doing it together. So if you come back later at noon, we'll be together. But I'm going to not be playing video games. I'm going to be shaping the ciabatta, baking it, and if we have time, which I think we will, I'm going to be making ciabatta pizza. So that will be fun. But Meowjin, welcome to the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you come back if you have time for the second half. If you don't have time, I understand. Because we're all busy people. So I'm going to do the last stretch and fold. So essentially, we just pick up a little bit and we fold it over just like we've been doing. And fold it over. And I can show you a window pane test. Let's see. So you can't see, unfortunately. I don't think my camera's strong enough for you to see. Eventually I'm going to get another camera set up. I don't know if that one will even work for you to see the window pane test, but hopefully it will. So the dough is so thin right now though that I can see through it. Unfortunately from your angle you can't, but I can see through it and I can see the light through it and it's not ripping. And that's a sign that your gluten is very strong. Okay, good. So now it looks like this. It's a ball. Still a little sticky, but you can, if you were here in the beginning, it's definitely more together than when we first started. If you weren't here in the beginning, all the VODs get saved to Twitch automatically and they stay for 14 days. And then before they're gone on Twitch, I always upload them to YouTube. I can use my Nightbot to show you my YouTube now because I'm so advanced at this point. Look at that technology, guys. Look at that technology. So that's my YouTube. So if you want to check out my VODs and if you missed them or you want to rewatch, you can go on YouTube and see. I also upload shorter videos to YouTube. So you'll see a shorter video of me making the ciabatta on there. If you're interested in that, if you don't have time to rewatch the whole video, you can see shorter videos on there. So yes. So if you missed this stream or maybe the next stream, you're busy, but you still kind of want to watch it later, it'll be uploaded automatically to Twitch. And then if, you want to watch it like next week or in 2 weeks, it'll be on YouTube. It'll be on YouTube, yes. But right now, what we're doing, that was the last stretch and fold I'm going to perform. So I decided that's enough. I'm going to let it start its bulk fermentation. The gluten is strong enough, right? Usually I do 3 to 4 stretch and folds. This time I did 4. So I did on the higher end of stretch and folds. Now, we have to let it do its first rise. This is, every step's important, but this step's so important to make sure you let it ferment all the way or you'll end up with under-fermented dough that is just not good. Under-fermented dough, if it's severely under-fermented, is not good. So, right now, let me see if you can see how big it is. It's like right up here. Yeah, you can see. You can see how much it fills the bowl. We're going to wait for it to fill the bowl almost all the way to the top. So it's going to double in size, essentially. I use this size bowl It's 2.5 quart, and it comes with a cap. It's from Pyrex if you're interested. Pyrex sponsor me. But if you're interested, it is this bowl. It doesn't have to be this brand, but this size. I like to use this size because there's no guessing for me when it's done. I know it's done when it almost fills the bowl. It's like just touching the cap or about to touch the cap. Then I know it's done with its first fermentation, its bulk fermentation. Right? And then when we're done with that, I'll come back when it's done and I'll show you how big it gets. Right? I'm hoping it'll be done around 12 or almost done at 12 because that's when we're coming back with my sister. I tested this on Thursday, and it bulk fermented super quickly because of the high inoculation. So I'm assuming this will happen today as well. So when we do that, we will cut the dough into two, and then I'll let it proof for about an hour or so, an hour to 2 hours. The dough is room temperature, so it should ferment or proof pretty quickly. And then that's when I will put the dough into the oven and bake it, right? And then we'll pretty much be done, right? We can make ciabatta pizza if we have time, which I think, like I said, we will. So once the dough comes up to here, that's when I'm going to come back on. Since I'm doing this with my sister today, even if it's not done fermenting all the way, I'll come back at 12. So even if it's not all the way up to the top, I'm still going to come back at 12 because that is the schedule for to do this with my sister. So, does anyone have any questions or concerns, feedback, complaints? Oh, good question. When is 12 for me? 12 Eastern time. So we are on the East Coast. So whatever you are, it might be, like I know some of you are on the West Coast. It might be 9 on the West Coast. I don't know where Miaojin is. Right now, for example, it's almost going to be 10, so it's in 2 hours. Oh, you're in England. So let's see. What is England time? So time in England. So 5 p.m. for you. 5 p.m. I'll come back in England time. So if you're not eating dinner or you're not busy, you can come back and watch the end. We'll be on for 4 hours. That's our plan. So if you're in England, it's 5 p.m. to 4 p.m. But if you're in New Jersey, where I am, or on the East Coast where I am, it's noon to 4 p.m. is when we'll be on. But that's a really good question. I should really make sure I mention that. We are on Eastern time. Not everyone is on the same time as I am. So usually, again, I want to mention that usually the dough takes longer than 2 hours to do its bulk fermentation. That's actually pretty fast. I'm expecting it to be fast. But I did put a lot of inoculation in, so it should ferment that quickly, actually. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to take a little break. Like I said, I'll be back at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be on for about 4 hours, and when I come back, I'll be with my sister, so that'll be fun. That will be fun. So I'll see everyone in 2 hours. Again, if you're not available, my streams will be on Twitch and then eventually on YouTube if you want to watch them later. And if you are available, I will see you all later. So bye, everyone. I will, like I said, I'll hopefully see you later. And I'll come back with that article I was mentioning earlier. Okay, bye.